painting skin tones. It doesn't need to be difficult and you shouldn't be struggling with it. I read a lot of comments that it's one of the most difficult things to paint. Well, in fact, it's actually one of the most easiest things to paint, because when it comes to skin, there's all different variations and different color differences throughout the skin. What might be on one side of my arm is going to be a different color on the other side of the arm. And for that reason, if you are painting skin and you make a mistake, you should be able to hide it. And for that reason, what you might think is a mistake could actually be a cool variation in the actual skin color. When painting skin, it's actually layers upon layers upon layers, so it's actually very easy. So if you are struggling with painting skin, you're probably overthinking it. In today's video tutorial, I'm going to walk you through the process step by step to show you how easy it is to paint skin. All right, so I have all my parts laid out here. We have 4 portraits that need to get painted. The upper half of his body with the arms. We have 2 hands, as well as the other 2 arms here. And then on his legs, you're gonna have his foot and leg on this side, and then on that side, just the 1 foot. So lots of skin tones to work on in today's project. All right, so when it comes to painting skin tones, one of the questions I get asked all the time is, which colors should I choose? So now, when painting skin tones, what applies to my project might be different to what applies to your project. So the colors really aren't that important. If you remember my last project, I did a whole video on how to paint skin tones. We painted Shanna, obviously a female model, and I was using this fairy flesh set right here by Vallejo paints. And there were a lot of comments. You guys couldn't find this set for sale anymore. It's possible it might have been discontinued, or it's just not available. It might be sold out. But if you can't find this set, there are other skin tone sets that you can find. This one's also by Vallejo. This is a tanned skin set, and then they also do a pale skin set. And these colors right here, pretty much all of them, is what you can find in the fairy flesh set. But again, if you don't like working with Vallejo, or if you can't find these paints, choose a different brand. There's tons of different skin tone sets out there to choose from. So the actual colors aren't that important. But if you can find the actual fairy flesh set, it does give you a really cool example of how to paint skin. Basically the same that I use in my teachings, except I change it a little bit. So this comes with the actual set. Shows you how to put down the base coat color, which color to use, how to apply the highlights, and then the shading, adding back a little bit more highlights. So I pretty much follow these exact steps right here, except for 1 or 2, which I don't agree with. And I add a little bit more of my own. I like to do washes when it comes to skin tones, and I like to do sometimes a little bit of a speckling effect to give the skin some texture. But this alone right here is a great example of just basically how to paint skin. It's not that difficult. You know, going in, putting down a base tone color, coming back, doing some highlights, doing some shading, doing a little bit more highlights in certain areas. So it's not that difficult. But basically, we're going to be following these steps, and I'm going to be adding a few more of my own steps. So since the fairy flesh set, this is, again, what we used in the last video. If you guys can't find this set, I'm going to use a different set today. And again, it doesn't matter which colors you choose, but basically we're going to be using this one right here. And this one is the tan skin set. So I have some of the colors laid out on a little test piece of paper here. This first color here is my primer that I normally use when painting skin tones. This is by Stynylrez. So this is the Stynylrez primer, and again, it's great to start off with if you're just priming the model and you want to skip a step of doing the base coat. It's a very nice skin tone color. But for this tutorial today, for today's video, the model has already been primed gray, so I'm not using the Stynylrez. But basically, that first color is normally the color I would start with. So for the tan skin set that we're going to be using today, this is going to be the base coat color. This is going to be our highlight color, which will most likely take over the entire model. This one is going to be the brightest highlight color, which is more of like a whitish. If it's not, it might be showing up a little bit on video, a little bit different. And here is going to be our shading color. It's a little bit more of a darker brown. And then, as mentioned, I might go in and do some different effects with applying washes, or even maybe doing, like I said, some speckling. I have to see. Every project is different. So I want to see how he looks first with just the shading and highlighting. And then if I want to alter the colors a little bit, I'll do some washes and, like I said, the skin textures. All right, so let's get started. We're going to go around the model and hit him with the base coat color just to get him all blocked in. All right, so it is the next day, and here is how the base coat is looking. Wanted to give everything a full day to fully cure and dry before moving on to the actual shading and highlighting. So for the shading, we'll be going in with the Barbarian Flesh, or if you're using the Elf skin tone set, I'll be going in with the Burnt Flesh. It's like a reddish flesh. Being that this is a male sculpt, he has very pronounced muscle definition. Definitely I'll be going in a lot heavier with the shading and highlighting, so it might look funny at first, but if you've watched my past videos, you'll know that I always go pretty heavy with shading and highlighting, because at the end I will come back with the original base tone color, which is this color right here, and then lightly mist it over everything to kind of neutralize all of the shading and highlighting, and any washes, to kind of just tone everything down and bring everything together. This way it looks a little bit more natural. All right, so let me get the airbrush set up and we'll start doing the shading. Okay, so here's how everything is looking. Went around, did all the parts with the shading, and as mentioned, when I do my shading, I put it on very heavy. This way I make sure I get inside all of the crevices, and then towards the end I'll lightly mist over with the base tone color just to tie it in. So it's going to look crazy at first, but up next we're going to go in with just this regular skin tone color from the Vallejo set. And if you're using the Fairy Flesh set, you're going in with the highlight skin color mixed in with a little bit of natural flesh. This is our first highlight color, and then afterwards we're going to come back with a brighter highlight color just in certain areas. It's almost like a bone white. So that'll be just in the highest peaks that we want to spray. But for now, we're going to go around and just blast every single high point throughout all the muscles. With this, it's basically, that's all it's called. It's called skin tone color, but it's code 72099, and it's by Vallejo. So yeah, let's go around, do all the parts with the highlights, and then work our way through the next steps. Okay, so here's how everything is looking after doing the first round of shading and just the first round of highlights. It's going to look absolutely crazy right now. Don't worry. Stay with me. Trust the process. I promise you at the end of the video, this will all look uniform. The blending will all look very natural, and it will all come together. It's supposed to be very high contrast right now because, as mentioned in the beginning, towards the end, we're going to come back with the base tone color, which was the very first color that we put on. It was this elf skin tone color, or any color that you were using. It would be your first color, and you would lightly mist it over all of the work that you just did very lightly. You don't want to cover up everything, but what that will do is it will cover the model and then everything underneath will show through. So coming back with that base tone color, all of the highlights and all of the shading will get buried just a little bit, but it'll still come through and it'll help all of the blending tie in all together to where it just looks very natural. So it's a little bit of a trick. And again, you just got to trust the process. I know it looks crazy right now. It's supposed to look crazy. It's supposed to look very high contrast until you come back with this base tone color. So I'm not going to do it just yet. If you were not going for super realistic skin tones, if you didn't want the skin to look like it had veins in it or any skin textures or speckling, you can go with your base tone color now, lightly mist it over everything, and then lock it in with a clear coat. However, I do want to do some washes. So from here, I am going to finish up the last round of highlights with this super bright highlight color. It's just a, is this the one? Actually, no. Actually, this is the one. Yes, this is the Elfic Flesh. So we're going to come in with that and hit it. This one is very bright of a white color. So we're just going to hit certain areas. So for example, on the upper torso, just going to hit the shoulder area, maybe some of the higher peaks of the muscles, nothing crazy. For the faces, it's really not going to go too much on the faces because I don't want it that much of a high contrast on the faces. I might hit the cheeks, the chins, and a little bit on top of the foreheads, and a little bit on the chest, although he's lunging forward, so I do want to keep some natural shadows on the chest and not go too bright down there. So again, it's going to depend on your project. But for this last highlight color, again, it's very bright. As you can see, it's very almost like a white, like a bone white. So you don't want to go crazy with it. Just hit certain areas to where like the natural sun would be hitting it from above. And then from there, I will lock in this project. I will clear coat it, and then we will move on to doing the washes the next day. Okay, so it's the next day. Here is how everything is looking after the clear coat has been applied. So everything has had time to dry, and now we can move on to applying the washes. We don't have to worry about affecting the paint underneath because the paint is now protected. So with the washes, we're going to go in and do a yellow, blue, and red wash, and I will explain that as I go through each step. Okay, so when it comes to washes, you have three colors that you're going to use. You have a yellow, a blue, and a red, and that's the order that I like to put the washes on. Basically, a wash is just going to be your acrylic paint watered down. So if you take each color, put it in a separate dish. We have a dish with red, blue, yellow, etc. Going to take some distilled water and basically just water down the paint so that it goes on very translucent. You don't want it to go on too dark because the point of doing a wash is you want it to go on very lightly so that it just barely stains the model. So if you look at your skin, for example, on my hand, see if I get under the right lighting here, skin isn't all one color. So that's what the wash is going to do. It's going to basically give the skin a more realistic look. So if you look at my hand, like some areas might look white, some areas look a little bit redder. Towards the middle, it looks a little bit more greener because I have a vein over there. So, your skin has different colors to it, especially over here. You can see like all the veins with the green. So that's basically what the wash is recreating underneath on the model. So it's basically, think of it as the layer underneath the first layer of your skin, like what would be underneath, like all of the veins and the vessels. So when we apply the yellow wash first, it's going to lightly tint the skin a yellowish color. Next, we're going to put on the blue wash with the blue and the yellow. In certain areas, it's going to start to mix and create a greenish color, which will give you those greenish hues, which will recreate the look of veins. And then the mixture of the blue and the red will help bring some life to the skin, make it look like some blood vessels underneath the skin. And then the blue and the red also make a purplish color in certain areas. So you'll kind of get like that look of like different vessels and veins underneath the skin. And again, you do the wash, and then afterwards we come back with the base tone color and lightly mist it over. This way it's not too drastic. And the overall appearance is, it looks like you have tiny little blood vessels and more life underneath the skin of your model. So that's basically what the washes are going to do. Also with the washes, it really depends on your skin tone colors and the look you're going for. As of right now, my skin tones are a little bit on the heavier side, especially with the shading that I did. He has lots of color to the skin. So with the washes, I'm not going to apply them that heavy. I'm going to go very light with the washes. Usually I go a little bit heavier with the washes if the skin is on the paler side. With this model, Logan is in a scene to where it's snowy. He's outside in the woods. There's snow on the ground, the snow on the base. There's a little bit of snow on him. So I want to keep him more on the paler side. I don't want him to look too tan. So again, I'm going to go very light with the washes. I don't want to add too much color because I want to make it look like his skin is very pale and that he's outside in the cold weather with, facing the elements of snow. All right, so take your part. The first one we're going to start with is the yellow. And again, you're just going to dab it on very lightly. The longer you leave it on, the more it's going to stain the model. And again, make sure you clear coat before doing this because you will mess up your paint if the model hasn't been clear coated first. So you would brush on the transparent yellow and then lightly dab it off. And again, you can go back and do this as many times as you want. You're basically just creating some discoloration in the actual skin to make it look a little bit more realistic. All right, so I'm going to go around the model, do each color, the yellow, the blue, and the red, and then I'll show you the overall look, and then we'll come back and adjust the base tone color. Okay, I just wanted to stop real quick. I'm halfway through doing the yellow wash on the parts. I just wanted to show the difference between what the yellow wash is actually doing to the skin. So this was not done yet. This is how our shading and highlighting was from previously. And as you can see with the yellow wash, it's starting to break up the skin tone colors and just give a little separation, make the skin look a little bit different, not so uniformed in one color. And then this is just the yellow. We still have to do the blue and the red, which will change things up a bit, but you can see from here what it's doing so far. Also, this was just applied, so it's transparent. It will dry a little bit lighter, but you can kind of see, I just wanted to point out the difference, what the washes do as far as staining the skin in certain areas. And you can adjust this however you want. You want to wipe it off in certain areas, whatever look you want to go for. But basically it's just so the skin doesn't look so perfect. All right, I'm going to finish up the yellow and then move on to the blue. Okay, so I have the yellow wash applied to all the parts. Up next, we're going to go around with the blue wash. Same thing, going to brush it all over the model, wipe it off, dab it off if you want in certain areas, if it goes on too strong. All right, so that's up next, and then we'll move on to the red. The red's going to be a little bit different the way we apply it. With the red, we're going to brush it on, but we're going to spritz it with some alcohol, which is going to break it up and make it look like tiny little blood vessels. But let me get started with the blue, and then we'll come back and I'll explain the red. All right, so I'm halfway through applying the blue wash, and I just wanted to stop and show you the difference real quick like we did with the yellow. So again, on this side is just the yellow so far, basically solid colors. And now on this side with the blue wash, you can kind of see what it's starting to do. It's creating these tiny little blood vessels in a bluish color, and then we'll do it in a reddish color afterwards. Let me zoom in so you can see it a little bit better. So hopefully it should be showing up on camera. You can kind of see it over there. So it creates these tiny little greenish blood vessels because the blue is mixing in with the yellow. You can kind of see it on his bicep right there. So basically that's what the blue wash does. Yeah, you can see it right there too on his shoulder. So if you go around and do a blue wash, it gives him the appearance of veins. And then again, we're going to miss the base coat over at the end. I know I keep saying that, but it's important because it's going to hide a lot of this. So it's up to you how strong you want to go with the look of the veins. But yeah, you could always bury it at the end with your base coat color and lightly mist over this. So I'm putting it on a little bit darker here and there in certain areas. And then that'll get covered towards the end. We'll update the highlights a little bit. We'll adjust the shading a little bit, and his skin will look very realistic. So again, here it is without, and here it is with the blue veins, and then we're going to come back and do some red veins. Okay, we are up to the red wash. This is going to be the final color, and there's a few ways to apply the red wash. If you watched my past videos with the red wash, I normally go around, dab it on with a brush, and then I come around with a spritz bottle. This is filled with isopropyl alcohol. And then I mist it over on top of the color that I just dabbed onto the model. What that does is it breaks up the color into these tiny little strands and makes them look like blood vessels. Basically what I'm doing right now with just a brush. So for that reason, and because I do it all the time in the past, you don't need to use isopropyl alcohol. But it does work right away and just creates tiny little blood vessels. But if you can create the blood vessels the way I'm doing with the brush, it takes a little bit more work. You got to go around and really pay attention, until you get something that looks like a blood vessel. You could do it with just a regular brush. You don't have to mist it with the isopropyl alcohol. All right, so for the red wash, same deal. I'm going to go around, just brush it on, dab it in certain areas, and make it look like tiny little blood vessels and stain the skin a little bit. Give them some blood flow to the skin right now. And then one thing I wanted to point out in case you haven't noticed already is I have 2 trays for each color. So I have 2 reds, 2 blues, 2 yellows. The reason for that is one tray is more watered down than the other. So basically the watered down tray, I'll go around and wash it over the entire model just to stain the skin. And then I'll come back with the stronger color and just dab it very lightly in certain areas for that blood vessel effect. So just a little tip and trick if you're applying washes. It's good to have 2 batches, one that's more watered down and then one that's a little bit stronger, not as watered down. It's still watered down, but just not as much. Okay, and then just one more time to stop halfway through. Just wanted to show you the difference of what the red wash is doing to the actual model. So this one right here, this was only the yellow wash with the blue wash. So you can see how that looks. And then you can see the difference once you come in with the red wash. So that's how he's looking with the red wash. And that's looking pretty much almost perfect. And I still didn't even come back and touch it up with the base colors yet. But if you look at my hand almost versus the colors we have going on right now, it's very similar. It'll need some slight adjustments again with the base coat color just to blend it in a little bit more, but big difference once you add that red wash. So I'm going to finish going around applying the red wash, and then I'm going to, like I keep mentioning, I'm going to come back with that base coat color, the very first color that we used to base coat the entire skin tone color. I'm going to lightly mist it over everything that we just did, just to hide the details just a little bit. Unless you like it like this, that's up to you. It depends, how crazy you want it to look. It's a It's a little too much right now, but again, also depends on how heavy you put it on. So, and then from there, I'm going to adjust the shading and the highlights just a little bit, and then I'll come back and I'll show you the overall look. But yeah, basically this is what a wash will do to your model with using yellow, blue, and red compared to what we started with. This right here would be the very first color that we started with on the key. It's kind of just like a solid peach color. So big difference between starting off with that color that's on the key and then ending up with something like this, something that looks more realistic. And you can see even through like his hand, all the little veins that it creates. And I didn't do nothing special. I'm just dabbing it on. Kind of does it for you as it falls into the creases. Gives that look of like pretty much what's going on with my hand with the veins. You get that greenish hue on the veins. Same thing is happening to his hand. So you get this nice realistic effect with the skin tones. So I'm going to go around, touch some things up off camera so I can pay better attention, and then I'll show you the final result of Logan. Okay, so for our final step, we're going to go back now and mist over the base coat color. This was our base coat color, 72.004, the elf skin tone. This is what we first started with. Being Logan, like I said, is in a like wintry scene with snow, I want him to be a little bit more on the paler side. This was a great skin tone color, but it's more for like normal skin tone if maybe somebody was hanging out on the beach. So I want him to look like he's in the snow. So we're going for a paler skin tone. So I have this pale flesh color, also by Vallejo, and this one's a little bit lighter. So basically I did some color test. I mixed equal halves 50-50 with the base tone. And we got, let's see, we got this color right here. So this was our original base tone color, the one on the upper left. And then this is going to be our new color. It's still a little bit wet because it's drying, but that's going to be the new color that I'm going to mist over everything. It's very similar to what we started with, but it's a little bit lighter because, like I said, I want it to be a little bit more paler. So all right, final step, going to mist it over the entire model and hide some of the details that we did with the very high contrast with the shading, the highlighting, and all the vein work that we just did. Okay, and here's how the parts are currently looking after going around and lightly misting over that base tone color. As mentioned, I did go around and do some finer details off camera. I went around and sprayed an even brighter skin tone to make him look a little bit more paler. This was the pale flesh, just to lighten up the skin tones a drop. Also for the shading, I came back and touched up some of the shading and highlights. For the shading, I came back in a little bit more with like a reddish brown. Originally, we started off with this dark brown here for the shading. So to give some more life to the skin and make it look like he's outside and the blood is flowing, I came back with a little bit more of a reddish brown. And again, this is all from the Vallejo skin sets. From here, there's a lot more work that needs to be done, but for the sake of this video, I just wanted to cover the basic principles for painting skin, covering shading, highlighting, and getting that neutral skin tone color. But yeah, a lot more work needs to be done. For example, on the portraits, we still need to paint the hair. Obviously, still need to do the eyes, the lips, the teeth. And being that this is Wolverine, aka Logan, a lot more work needs to get done to the body. within the sculpt are all of these tiny little hair strands on the shoulders, as well as on the forearms and on his chest. So a lot of this will get covered up with hair, being he's a hairy guy. But here's how the paint is currently looking before I go in and start doing all the little tiny hair strands on the model. If you'd like to see the rest of this piece get painted, stay tuned to the channel. I'll be doing an entire video painting this project from start to finish.
Let's go. Cause I'm a warrior. That's right. Yeah, I'm a warrior. You're right.
As mentioned, this Logan project, he's going to have a lot of blood and sweat and weathering all throughout the body. So if you want to see the full process of how this turns out from before and after, and how the skin tones are really going to look at the very, very end, stay tuned to the channel, because I'll have an entire video painting this project from start to finish. So if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you're notified of all future videos. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below. I'll be more than happy to answer anything, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.
Let's go.